if anybody's watching this. What the purpose of this is some good news, finally, for some business owners this morning. Woke up and lots of businesses are starting to get the money in the bank from the furlough scheme. Absolutely phenomenal. We've got a lot of text messages from clients where they're thanking us for all the hard work that the payroll team did last week. I'm super proud of those guys, as I said yesterday, on the last broadcast last week, sorry. So super proud of that. Other bit of good news as well is that the Chancellor decided to mix it all up yesterday and announce another loan scheme that's available there for small and medium-sized businesses. So hopefully we can give you a little bit of good news, and I can tell you the little bit that we do know about. The bounce back loan scheme, that's what it's called. So I can give you a little bit of guidance about that and hopefully take any questions that anybody's got as well. And I have a challenge from Nigel Risner as well, who's saying that this won't be as funny as what his and Jeff's session was last week. You know what, Nigel? Sometimes it ain't funny, but they're getting cash in the bank, so people will be happy with it. But I tell you what, also the work that you and Jeff and Ian did last week, raising the money for the hospice, was fantastic as well. So well done there. Well done. Right, so the business bounce back loan scheme, it's there to help small and medium-sized businesses with a loan between £2,000 and £50,000. It's going to be based on the turnover of the business, is what we've heard. That's not the official guidance, but that's what we've heard, is it's going to be based on a percentage of the turnover of the business. That percentage that we've heard is 25%. So if you're turning over 100,000, you're going to be able to borrow up to 25,000. Now, what's the major difference between this and the CBIL loan guarantee that we talked about a couple of weeks ago is that the government is actually going to guarantee 100% of this loan. So that's a pretty bold move, right? The current scheme, the government would only guarantee 80% and the business owners had to guarantee the other 20%. So again, that's something fundamental difference. The other bit as well, which I think is absolutely phenomenal, is it's going to be no fees, no interest, no payments for the first 12 months. So it's interest free. The government's going to pay all of the interest in the first 12 months. So that, to me, is a massive game changer. What we're now in a position to be able to do is actually say, look, a lot of the small businesses that weren't able to apply for the CBILs can now fill in. We're hearing a 2-page form, and they're going to get the money in the bank within days, right? Currently, the CBILs, and we've been working on a number of applications for clients, takes about 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks to get the money in the bank. So this turnaround is going to be extremely fast, and it's going to be really helpful and really good as well. The loans, they're going to be for up to 6 years, right? As I've already said, no repayments in the first 12 months. And who the heck's going to actually supply all this money? The government is going to do it through accredited lenders. So we don't know who that list of accredited lenders are yet, but what we can pretty much guarantee is it's going to be the same list that was doing the CBILs loan, right? Because they've already been vetted and checked, and it's all the high street banks. But it's not just your Barclays, your HSBC, your NatWest, your Royal Bank of Scotland. It's not just those guys. There's lots of other providers out there, right, who you can borrow the money from. We've got lots of contacts on there as well, so we're able to get you in front of the people you need to get you the decision that you need. How are you going to be eligible for it? It's quite a simple eligibility process, to be honest. You've got to be based in the UK. I think most clients will be. Most of our businesses in the groups and the value business community where we're going live, but also on our Facebook page, will be here. What we've also got is your business has to have been negatively affected by coronavirus. I think most businesses have, right? So we just need to actually stipulate what the negative effect of the coronavirus has been on there. And also, and this is a tricky bit, it's not an undertaking in difficulty at the 31st of December 2019. What the heck is an undertaking in difficulty? If anybody knows, please put it in the comments below, because I'd love to know what that means. I think that pretty much means you weren't in the stuck, right? If you were in the stuck at 31st of December, you had negative issues going on with the business, I don't think you're going to get the loan, right? But those businesses that have struggled after the 31st of December will be eligible for the grant or for the loan. All right. So a couple of places can't apply, so they're just not accepting it. Banks, insurance, reinsurance, insurance brokers, public sector bodies, further education establishments if they're grant funded, and state funded primary and secondary schools. Now, The one which it doesn't say in here, and I know we've got 3 clients that this applies to, so we're going to try and find a little bit of more information out. And it is early days. You announced it less than 24 hours ago, so it is early days. There's a bit of guidance coming out, but not a lot yet. It's those clients that actually run education nurseries, right? So the nurseries for the kids. We're not quite sure whether you're going to qualify or not. What it is telling us is it's further education establishments if they are grant funded. I think that means that you will be able to apply, right? So I'm talking directly to the 3 clients that are nurseries. I think you will be able to apply, but we need to just clarify that and work through there. What happens if you're already claiming it, right? If you've already applied for the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme, CBILS, you cannot have this, right? You're knocked out of it. You can't have it, right? But if you've already applied and have a CBIL loan of up to 50,000, which is the upper limit, you can transfer it to a bounce back loan, but you must do it with your lender that you've already got by the 4th of November 2020. Why would you do that? The reason you do that is to actually take away that 20% risk that you've got. So if anything happens, yes, you might not have a personal guarantee under the CBIL scheme, but they will try, the banks will try and recover the money from the. They can't recover the money from the business. They're going to come after you personally. With this, they'll still come after you, but if you haven't got the money, they'll go after the government, right? So it takes away some of that 20% risk. They don't think that they're going to go straight to the government and ask the government for the money, because they won't. They will still come after you personally, but it just gives you a little bit more protection as well. All right. What else do we know? We know that the scheme's not live. Sadly, all right, it's going to be live on the 4th of May 2020. Now, I ate humble pie last week, right, because I said there's absolutely no way that the Inland Revenue would get the furlough scheme set up in time, right? And that website is bound to go and crash, and it's going to go horribly wrong, and people aren't going to get the money for month end and things like that, because, being brutally honest, HMRC's not got a great track record of actually implementing software. They're talking about on the 4th of May, excuse me, this scheme being able to you being able to apply for a bounce back loan. I really hope that whatever that portal looks like, whether that's a government portal or bank portal, we're not quite sure yet, but we do know it's going to be a 2-page form. How they're going to ask for that? Is it going to be a form that gets emailed in, or is it going to be an online form? We don't know, right? But as soon as we know that, then what we can do is we'll help you to put the applications in. And again, we hope and pray that actually there's no complications with that website if it is a government one or if it's a bank one, right? Now, what I would love is any questions anyone's got. Darren's on the watching the questions, so he can interject in a second with any questions that anybody's got. More than happy to take any that we've got, but also not just about this, anything else that anyone's got any questions about the coronavirus, the business support, anything else that's going. Be also quite nice to find out, because there's 2 bits of really good news there today, in terms of the bounce back loan, but also the furlough payments starting to hit people's bank accounts. What other successes are people having as well? So it'd be great to have some feedback there as well. All right. Darren, is there any questions?
No, not really sort of questions. I see a few people at the stage. I think some people were just digesting what you were saying. Question just come in from Ben Sampson. Have they said what the interest loans will be? I think obviously after the 12 months, I think that's obviously just a secondary
Great
part
question, Ben.
come
Great
into.
questions, because one of the things that happened with the CBILS loan was we're seeing interest rates of about 17 to 20% being charged by Barclays. It's absolutely horrendous, things like that. Yeah, and the banks got the knuckles wrapped and they got told to sort it all out. What we don't know, and I'll read it from the government guidance here, is the government will work with lenders to agree a low rate of interest for the remaining period of the loan. So we don't know what that's going to be yet, but we know that the indication is it's a low rate of interest, which again I think is absolutely phenomenal if we can get this money out to small businesses within a couple of days, and that's what they're talking about doing, but also at a low rate of interest. That is the key to me. So great question, Ben. Thank you for asking that one, because that's not something I covered.
What do you think the stimulus for this is? I think more importantly, from our point of view, and for small businesses. Obviously, we've heard a lot coming from the Bank of England, the Federation of Small Businesses. What do you think the driver is behind the stimulus for this? From your opinion.
Yeah, so my opinion, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I went out. I haven't gone out for a walk every day. I'm trying to lose some weight. I do go for a walk as often as I can, but I tend to walk every Saturday and Sunday, right, and just take myself off. I know when I went for a walk on Sunday this week down Chester Street where I live, there was more cars than ever. It was like a normal Sunday, right? And my view is that actually some of us, despite the government warnings, are actually starting to get themselves back into work, are starting to actually say, you know what, yes, we've got lockdown, but they're not policing it as effectively as they could or whatever. So people are starting to say, actually, I'm going to B&Q. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to do lots of other things, and they're pushing the rules a bit. I think business owners, they're seeing the likes of Greg's making an announcement last night saying that they're going to open 20 shops in the Newcastle area. Actually, is that essential? I'm not convinced. Yeah, I'm really not convinced. That's nothing against Greg's. But when you've got businesses like B&Q, you've got Greg's, you've got McDonald's, you've got lots of other businesses starting to open, I think that my view is that other businesses, smaller businesses, the SMEs that we are in the community, some people are starting to say, you know what, actually, I haven't got it. I've isolated for a good month or whatever time period it is now. Some people have done more than a month. I'm going to go out. I'm going to take my chance. Yeah, obviously Boris came out yesterday and did an announcement saying, "Look, please be sensible." Everything else, I think, to me, the government is saying actually we've got to give more help to those small businesses because business owners are getting scared that actually is this going to be a September open? Is this going to be a Christmas open? Is this going to be a July open? We none of us know. Actually, what this does is it gives us that degree of runway, that bit more cash to actually sustain the business. So it gives us options again. You remember options is something I talked about early on with the coronavirus. By giving us the options, that extra runway, it means that we're not having to put ourselves under too much pressure to get back out, to get the doors open, to get the money flowing back into the business. It means that actually we can go out there and, in effect, borrow 25% of last year's turnover, pay it off over the next 6 years, no repayments for the first 12 months. In essence, that's 3 months worth of money averaged out. If it's 25%, it's 3 months worth of money you would normally have coming in. So it actually gives us a bit more of a runway from a cash flow point of view. But also, I think the other thing as well is they've been absolutely hammered by everybody for the those business owners that take a lower salary and bigger dividends. I think they've really been hammered there. But I can, rightly or wrongly, I'm going to get shot by some of my clients for saying this. I don't think there was a lot more they could do about those that took a lower salary and bigger dividends. Because actually, how do you give a percentage of dividends back? I don't think that's possible because you've got lots of different scenarios that would work. I think this is actually helping those businesses to give them an option as well. Now, one of the things that you've got in there as well is it is a loan as opposed to a grant. But actually, if you've got a business that was good at the 31st of December, which is the cut-off point, then actually 3 months worth of turnover loan is a bloody big amount. Sorry, I shouldn't swear, but it is a big amount. Yeah, and it's something that I feel proud of the government for doing this bit. Yes, it is borrowing, but actually, in
But I
theory,
think you're right there. I think that unfortunately the government's in a very difficult position because they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
mhm.
And I think you're right. I think there's a lot of comments coming through now. Someone's saying that they totally agree with you. Unfortunately, I can't say who it is, but totally agree with you. Unfortunately, too many people will become comfortable with the current situation and think, you know what, it's not been that bad. I'll open up to big mistake in their opinion. I think that's true. There's a new paradigm of normal, and we're kind of getting used to it. I think we've now, all that uncertainty has now been dealt with. People now know what's happening with furlough. They now know what's happening with C-bills. People have kind of got over that initial kind of shock to the system, if I can call it that. And now people are very much in the let's just get on with this. Let's move forward. Let's continue. One question that has come through, and again, I don't know whether it was that clear from the announcement. People are asking, is in terms of eligibility, is there a level of turnover that you have to be applicable for this? What's the qualifying criteria around that? How do people deal with that, Steve?
Yeah, so what we've got is complete darkness, to be honest, on there. The eligibility that I'm looking at now, and apologies, when I'm doing these, I like to know what I'm talking about, so I don't want to. One of the early things that we said when we were doing the live sessions is I want to give you the honest facts. So what I do is I normally write loads of notes out beforehand, so I'm 100% clear on it, or I've got the eligibility in this case just on the screen in front of me. So the eligibility is you are a UK-based business, you have not been negatively, you have been sorry, start again. You have been negatively affected by the coronavirus, and your business was not an undertaking in difficulty at the 31st December 2019. There's nothing there saying you must have a turnover of £10,000, £2,000, £1 million. There's nothing.
So
All it
there's
says
no
is,
guidance there. But what this statement here, this undertaking in difficulty, that sounds too much like a bit of geek speak. So in plain English, what is an undertaking in difficulty? What would that mean in layperson terms?
okay, I've just apologised for not for swearing. I'm going to do it again, right? Your business wasn't in the shit. I think people understand that, right? If
Yeah,
your
that's
business
fine. Just say it as it is. I think our audience is older, over the age of 21, and we all kind of know this,
Exactly.
so that's fine.
Right. If your business was in this shit, right, you didn't have any cash coming in, you were going bust, right? You had problems, you didn't have money, you had really bad credit, something like that. Yeah. As long as you've got those things, right, then I would assume you were an undertaking in difficulty, right? It's the first time I've been doing this for 44 now. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've never ever heard of an undertaking in difficulty, right? I'm not even going to Google it. So I suspect lots of accountants on there have a view. I can actually see that there's another good friend of ours, Michael, is also on here. Michael's an accountant as well, who we love and we work with. He does a lot of stuff with valued clients as well. Michael, have you got any idea? I'll ask you a direct question. Have you got any idea what an undertaking in difficulty is?
I
Just
think Michael's going to come back in the comments to say basically saying the same thing.
yeah,
If you're not
yeah,
in the SH asterisk asterisk asterisk,
yeah.
you'll be fine. But I think that's interesting because we do. There's a lot of advice and people do get caught up in the jargon, in the accountant speak and all that kind of stuff. And I think for a lot of people, you just got to strip that back to its lay terms. And yeah, I think that's the key thing. If your business was viable as of the 31st of December 2019, you've got no problem. Yeah, I think Michael's come back and says basically as you said it in the shit. Um, yeah, I think that is. But the good news is, as you say, if you've got a really small micro business, 5 grand turnover, 10 grand turnover, this is applicable for them. They can apply for it, and the process is fairly straightforward. So I think that's really good.
That
It,
to me, Dan, I think that's the crucial bit with this, and this is why I think that this is the game changer,
yeah,
right? Because I'm talking directly to the small businesses, the ones that actually you could go off to the bank, and the bank aren't going to lend you any money,
yeah.
right? Because you haven't got a big enough turnover, you haven't got a viable business, yeah. You're that sole trader type business, yeah. You're that small partnership type
I'm
business, yeah.
so glad you said that right then because there was a question that came and says, does small business include sole trader?
Yes, it does. Yes, it
Absolutely,
does. Right?
absolutely.
It's those guys and ladies, so it's those gentlemen and ladies there that are the very small businesses that don't have the established business that has been going for a number of years, that has employees, that has the bigger business. Yeah, it's the very small businesses I believe will be able to apply for this as well. And this is the bit that I think is going to really help, and it's going to be a massive game changer for those clients, for those business owners that actually need some help, need some support. Typically, where being able to go to the bank and go, please, can I have an overdraft? It's a bit like Oliver, isn't it?
Yeah, can I have
Please,
some money?
sir. Yeah,
Well,
actually,
we do a lot of work with people so anyone doesn't know, we work a lot with people like Mint Business Club. There's
yeah,
a lot of sole traders, a lot of small businesses, micro businesses there, doing some awesome stuff. And obviously when the grants were announced, a lot of those guys were really worried, as well as our own clients were really worried that they weren't eligible for any grants. They were, a lot of them were directors. They weren't eligible to get any grants of that. They were worried about the furlough. This is a package that, yes, it's a loan, but it's a lifeline. It's an olive branch to those guys. It's something that can make the difference between them, meeting the next 3 months, 4 months, 6 months plus of their business and giving them some additional cash and runway to go after. Just a client coming through asking for a client. What if a company started up after the 31st of January? Good question. Again, it just says
Good feeling you wouldn't be able to apply.
Yeah.
That's my good feeling because you were not an undertaking in difficulty at 31st December. It's that double negative. Um, I guess if you didn't start until 31st of, well, the 1st of January, then you definitely weren't an undertaking in difficulty, right? But is there going to be enough history there? I'm not really sure that that would be the case. Great question. I will try and find out. Can I just also chuck another thing in there as well? How's everybody actually feeling the grants are going in terms of those small business rates relief grants that people start to get? Is there any councils that aren't paying out still? Anybody that's still having problems?
I
Please
know. I
put
know.
it.
Last week we were saying that I think Sunderland weren't paying, hadn't paid out at that point.
Yeah,
So again, that would be interesting to get some feedback on that as
yeah.
well.
But again, one of the things I love about the Value of Business community, and those that are watching this on the Facebook page, as opposed to the Value of Business community, please join the community. You're more than welcome. And vice versa, if you're watching the business community, please give the Valued Facebook page a like as well. It's great when we can get all the information across on both platforms there. Certain bits that we do put out just in the community and others that we do put out on the Facebook page. But one of the things I love about the community was I had a client who I'm going to remain nameless, who actually turned around to me last week and went off to his local council. And his local council said, right, okay, you're not eligible, right? You're not eligible for the £10,000 grant because you have a rateable value of £15,000. Right? Now, the cut-off for small business rate relief is £15,000 on the nose, right? Literally 15,000, right? So he decided he was going to tweet and he was going to complain on social media to one of the Northeast councils. I'm not going to tell you which councils because you'll be able to identify who it is. But what he did was he tweeted the local council. The local council found his number and rang him and said, please take the tweet down. You're making us look really bad. Right? He went, well, nobody's managed to get in touch with us for a good, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks, whatever the time period was. I don't think Darren's looking at me and he doesn't know which story I'm going with here. It's because I haven't told him yet. The guy then turned around and said, let me look at your application. You qualify. It's £15,000 on those, right? 2 days later, he got his £10,000 grant, right? So if we are having problems, you've got to go back to the council. You've got to challenge the council, right? Because if he hadn't actually sent that tweet, if he hadn't had the gumption to turn around and say, I have a problem, he wouldn't have £10,000 in the bank. All right. So we've got to go back to the councils and challenge them if we need to. Right. I think that initial tsunami of inquiries is dying off from the council. I would hope so. They should be able to get back to you a lot quicker now. But please do, if you have got any queries on the group, we can help as much as we can, but also go back to the councils and challenge the councils as well. Now, the client in particular that I've just mentioned there has asked me to share that, but I did say that I wouldn't mention his name or councils or anything like that because you would recognise which area it was and who it could be. All right?
No, we don't need to mention anyone that doesn't do that. But we've had a couple of posts come through, comments. Couldn't fault Durham County Council; they were brilliant. Received grant from Newcastle Council 2 weeks ago, so they are starting to filter through. But I think you make such an important point there. If you are expecting that and the councils are not responding, then there are avenues open to you as well within that. So use them absolutely. Um, just a couple of things. Coming back to the question that was asked earlier, asking for a client, what if the company started up after the 31st of January? What would you recommend? I mean, you've got kind of 3 criteria there. You've got um, wasn't in the ship before the 31st of December, if we can use that phrase, based in the UK and has been negatively affected by coronavirus. If you kind of meet the 2 criteria out of the 3, is it worth applying anyway? The worst that you're going to get told is no, but at least you'll have a definitive answer one way or the other.
Yeah,
So at this stage, you could still apply for that.
yeah. I think ultimately it depends on what the portal is where you apply.
Yep.
Do you apply through Barclays, through HSBC, through RBS, through Starling Bank, all the 40 providers that are there already, the accredited providers, or actually is it a government thing where the government then passes? We're not quite sure where it is. If it's a 2-page form, it ain't going to take you long to fill 2 pages in theory. Depends how long each page is, yeah. But in theory, if it's a 2-page form, it shouldn't take that long. It's worth a punt, would be my view.
Yeah. Any additional questions come through? If you want to ask us anything, we'll keep it live for another minute or so just to answer any questions you may have. But obviously, this is just a very quick update to let you know about the Chancellors' announcements yesterday of the fund, but also just to let you know a little bit about our thoughts around the bounce back loans for small businesses. But thank you very much for your time this morning. If you have got any comments, drop them through very quickly. Stephen, any final thoughts or comments from you?
Yeah, two really. First thought is when you're doing the live, remember to shut the windows because we've just got a delivery there. So apologies if you suddenly hear my kids running past here and everything else. Just preempting that, and yeah, my wife's now accepting the delivery from Amazon or wherever it is. So I think the other thing as well is for me. I remember sitting up at the office at concert at 7 o'clock at night when this all just happened, and the Chancellor stood up and said, "This is what we're going to do to help." I also remember sitting here the day that Boris went into hospital and thinking, "Oh my heavens, is the government actually going to lose some of that impetus, some of that stimulus that's actually trying to help the business?" I remember sitting here thinking, "Oh, you know what, the furlough scheme, how quickly we're going to get this money out. People are actually not going to get it before the end of April when they need to make the payments." I'm delighted with what's happened. Yeah, I'm astounded that the clients are now actually getting the money that they need to pay their staff's wages at the end of this month, this week. Yeah, some got them yesterday, a lot have got them today. More will come tomorrow. I know I've got one client that's, it looks like literally it is the 6 days, yeah, when people are getting the money. To me, we've got these options, we've got these opportunities. We talked with Nigel and Jeff last week and a couple of weeks ago about pressing that reset button, about thinking, actually, you know what else do we want to do in life? What else is important to us? I got asked a quote about what coronavirus meant to me personally by our good friend Adam at Printmate, who's put a live thing out this morning. My view was actually this is our time to realise what's important. So is it your family that's important? Is it your friends that's important? Is it your business? What is it that's actually important to you? And we're doing a whole piece. I think we've got a blog going out about this today and about coronavirus, and we're maybe going to do a live session on Thursday about it as well. It'd be great to have some people join us for that. But I remember all of that negativity, that weight on my shoulders, thinking, "Oh my heavens, are we ever going to get through this?" Actually, we've now got options. We've all got opportunities. Yes, sadly, there's thousands and thousands of people who've sadly passed away. We've got a minute's silence, I think it is, at 11
o'clock this morning, yeah.
All of the value team will be observing that. If you are Lynn, who I'm going to speak to for the first time, you're a client that's just joined us through the merger that we've just done. I'm ringing you at 11:05. I hope that's okay, because if you're watching this, because this is important. Yeah, it's about us taking that time now to reflect about what's important to us as individuals, what's important to us as humans. And I think that this now is our opportunity to actually press the reset button on our businesses, press the reset button on our lives, and actually think, what the heck do we want to happen? So when we come out of lockdown, and I'm personally sick of hearing the press come up with all these different days and times that we're going to come out of lockdown. Do you know what? There's only one person who knows when we're coming out of lockdown, and that's the government. Yeah. So several people were in there, but the government, yeah, is Boris. When he stands up, and he will be the person that stands up and goes, "Today's the day, in 3 weeks' time, in 2 weeks' time, on Monday, whatever it might be," he's the one that's going to tell us, right? Because he wants to be in control again. Yeah, and that's what he's doing. But actually, when he presses that button and we are able to start going back out safely, when we're able to start actually get on with our lives again, I would ask, what do you want to do different with your life? Because God willing, we're not going to ever be in this scenario again. Hopefully, I'm 44. I never want to have this experience in my life ever again. Yeah, it's a bit like the Twin Towers and all that horrible stuff that we all went through years ago. But actually, that was thousands of miles away. It impacted me emotionally, but actually it didn't affect me and my family, what I could do. Where coronavirus has affected me. To me, press the reset button. And when we come out of the blocks, when we cross our front doorstep properly again, actually decide what you want to do different. Don't wait until it's too late, because you won't have that opportunity. It's now this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to say, what do I want to do different?
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
and
You're
that's
absolutely
the
spot
thing.
on. You're spot on. I think the key thing for us has always been about, supporting families. Family comes first in everything we do. The team, making sure the team are safe, and if we can do that, everything's fine. We have got the blog out today. We will be doing a live on Thursday about that. So again, if you can join us, that'd be great. Questions come through. I think we did look at this at the very beginning, so not sure. Unfortunately, I don't see the name of the person who's asked this, but what's your experience of the C-bills application? How quickly have the banks been reacting? I think you mentioned at the very beginning it's been about 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks for that process to really kick in. Do you want to just elaborate on that before we close the session?
Yeah, certainly. So my application, my view is that it's been absolutely horrendous in part. Yeah, it's been absolutely horrendous. You've got some banks that have really tried to screw over some businesses, in my opinion. Sorry with the language, but I'm on my soapbox again, Darren. I just when you hear of the likes of Barclays offering 17% interest rates, that's Wonga rates. That's ridiculous rates. Yeah, it should never ever have happened, right? And there will be repercussions about that. I'm sure of that. When you hear of people, I heard of one yesterday where a client has rang up and been told, yes, we will deal with your application for the CBIL scheme, but it's going to be 4 weeks before you get the phone call to actually get you through the process. That's far too long. You can't do that. Yeah, that's not helping small businesses, and I think that is why the bounce back loan's been created to try and hatch straight away with that quick turnaround. And I think it's really interesting that the Chancellor announced that it's going to be days in terms of turnaround instead of weeks. Yeah, because he's now telling the pressure, he's the banks, this is what you've got to do. Right now, the banks have all got businesses that they have to run as well. So can they actually deal with the demand? I don't know, which is why I'm not quite sure how the portal is going to work, or if it is an application through the government portal, or whether it's an application through the banks. I don't know. The other thing that I did notice as well was Lloyd's TSB seemed to, was it a week on Thursday? So 2 weeks ago, this Thursday, something happened. It was a click, yeah, with Lloyd's. I still don't know what it is, what happened with Lloyd's, but something fundamentally changed because all of the applications that we had in was, yeah, it's going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks before we'll get back to you. People got a phone call on the Saturday. So literally something changed on the Thursday night. The Friday, stuff started to move a little bit, but the Saturday, a lot of people got phone calls and a lot of people got told, we're going to extend your overdraft straight away. We're going to give you an overdraft straight away. We're going to give you a smaller loan. So we'll give you overdraft and loan. Yeah, and they push that stuff out super fast. And I'm not quite sure what the reason of that was. Maybe it's just seeing the kick on that Barclays took and they went, we don't want to do that. I think Lloyd's is still government owned as well. So there's a chance that actually the government just went, hey, sort it out. Yeah. So it could be that. We've got clients that are dealing with HSBC. They put applications in. It's still 4 or 5 weeks down the line, and money isn't flowing quick enough. So I think it's other one. It's good. It's bad. It's lots of different scenarios. I don't think the banks are going to come out of this from a C-bills point of view with a lot of credibility. I think the banks are going to say, you know what, we didn't deal with this as good as what we could have. But I think the infrastructure that the banks isn't in place now to deal with this because a lot of the bank managers ended up getting redeployed, made redundant, etc., as people stopped going into branches and a lot of businesses became call center only. Direct customers, I think some of the banks call them. So unless you turned over £1 million, you were dealing with the call center. The call center can't deal with this volume. Yeah, the call center haven't got the experience to be able to process the applications. It's the business managers that need to do that. So I don't think the banks were geared up enough to be able to do that. The I don't know whether that answers the question. Hopefully it does.
I think, yeah, absolutely. We've seen the process. It's fairly straightforward. We've seen at the beginning of this situation, we had a small number of lenders. That list of lenders then grew over time. We saw the traditional high street banks being amongst the first. We then saw a lot of the new challenger banks coming in, the people like Metros, your Starlings, and others getting added. So it's much more diverse. And I think, because of that and the pressure of the small business community, the professional bodies like the EFSB and others putting pressure and lobbying the banks. They've changed a lot of their attitudes. We've seen some of that change. We've seen MPs lobby banks directly. We know, we've passed information on to the MP for Durham as well as Richard Holden. All of that's been fed back, and I think we lose sight that this is a completely unprecedented situation. No one was ready for this. No one had planned for this. I think sometimes we forget the scale of what people have actually brought together, that have kind of pulled it through. We're still tweaking that. I think one of the things that we've often spoke to our clients about is agility, and I think for the first time we've actually seen departments and various industries become very agile and turn things around very quickly. You said you ate a little bit of humble pie for a month of, for forever and a day. We would never have thought that HMRC would have had that portal up and running in that time frame, but for them to have done that, I think that's awesome. It's changed a lot of our thinking about how they've deployed that technology better. People will learn from this, but I think ultimately there's still an approval process that will take 2 or 3 weeks before it hits people's bank accounts. But the process is a lot more streamlined than a traditional. Go back a few months. You would put a bank loan application in. You'd be sitting there 6 to 8 weeks for an application to come through. We're turning it around in 2 to 3 weeks now. So yes, it's still lengthier, but I think it is improving. So I think hopefully that deals with that. Lots of people saying thank you very much, being informative, useful as ever. Obviously, as we have more information about the application process, it's the portal, how we apply, when we apply from the 4th of May, I think we'll let the community and the Facebook page know, as always. But if there's any questions, put them in the comments. Stephen and I will read them as we go through. If you're perhaps not willing to type a question live into the broadcast, let us know. We'll get back to you. But we appreciate and thank you for your time. And just to remind you, if we can, we'll be observing the minute silence at 11 a.m. this morning. We hope you do too. And yeah, thank you very much for your time this morning. Stephen, any final parting comments?
I think the only thing from me as well is obviously we do these live sessions. We have done as many recently, and that's been, again, it's a conscious decision that we've taken. The reason being is there hasn't been a massive amount of new updates. As soon as there is an update, we could have done a live last night with this, but we wanted the guidance. We wanted to make sure that actually it wasn't just Stephen and Darren's view. It was actually based on the criteria that we know. So we took a decision to wait on that. From this, we'll update our blog. We'll get something out to all the valued clients as well over the coming days. But we want to make sure that actually we're getting facts out, we're getting information out that's really helpful for you guys. So what I would love is just to actually know, does this help? Do you want more of this stuff? Do you want less of this stuff? What does the community want to see? What else can we do to help you guys?
I think also, if there are topics that they want covered, let us know. We'll happily put that into the mix as well.
Definitely. It's because we've had a couple of external speakers come along to the different sessions. So if there's anything that you want us to cover, please let us know, and we can arrange that, because we really want to help as much as we can. All right. Hopefully that helps. Thank you very much for your time. We've been going for quite a while now, about 40 minutes, I think. So a lot longer than we planned to go. But thank you very much for your time, and we will answer any questions that come through later on. All right. Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.